showing, and you know, without the band putting on a performance like that, and there wouldn't be a film. I can tell you, being an arm's reach away from Dennis and Ryan Roxy on that stage, I was running one of the cameras. It was palpable that we knew it was going to be fun. We were some of 6 people that knew that Alice was actually going to walk out on stage ahead of time, but we weren't prepared for what they did. And it was palpable. You can see the guys on the stage. It was camaraderie. They were in the pocket. It's like last night was 1974 and they never stopped. And they played, and this isn't a bragging point for me or Chris, but it's the best recorded performance of the original group in a live setting, and 40 years after they split, to do that, it's a landmark occurrence. So my hats off to the band. And so I gotta highlight when that took place. Every town has one record store that you know that the guys that are running it are you know, they're in it for the love of the music. It's not just to make a buck. And that store in Dallas is Good Records. And that's the reason things like this happen there. It's legendary. And the guy that makes it work, the guy that makes it tick the heart of Good Records is Chris Penn. And he jumped through hoops of fire to make this happen. I mean, it's crazy what he did to make this happen. That's the other half of the movie, you know? It's the band giving to the fans, but in this case, the super fan gave the band their identity back. Alice Cooper, everybody knows the name Alice Cooper, but Alice Cooper started out as 5 guys, not just one. And to this day, a good fraction of his live set, like about a third at least, came from Dennis, Glenn, Michael Bruce, and Neil Smith. And without that, the show wouldn't be what it is now, which is great. But man, thank God for the Alice Cooper group. And thank God for record store owners and super fans like Chris Penn.
All right, I'm gonna eat the mic, I'm gonna keep it brief. Thanks for coming out on the school night. Thanks to Westport Library, thanks to Verso Studios who are recording records here and putting out records. And this place is amazing. Thanks to Beehive, Christine Ullman. Thanks to Jennifer Bankser. There's so many people to thank. But there's so many layers to this film and so many layers to music. And what to me music means is it gets you through some difficult times. It gets you through happy, sad times. But there's a backstory to everything, and there's stuff that you just don't share. But what's really been amazing about this is the community of fans and friends, and I've got just some new lifelong buddies and people that mean so much to me, and it's amazing. And I hope it came through with the movie, like what music means to me and what music means to you guys. You guys are here on a Sunday at freaking 8 o'clock in Westport, Connecticut. And this was 7 years ago. It'll be 8 years in October. And when it's 10 years old, we're going to do a big celebration. We don't know where yet. Probably in Canada, at the Paul Brennan historian's house basement. He's going to have a permanent Alice Cooper museum. If you guys saw the museum tonight, that was Dennis Dunaway and Paul Brenton's concoction. And that's just 5% of what they have. They're hoarders. They got a problem. They got a situation. But anyway, I won't take up any further. Thank you very much. And if you can take the film home with you over there. I'm going to sell it. Dennis will sign it. He's signing books. All the books benefit the Westport Library. All the money goes to those guys. $19 with an autograph. You got to do it. Yeah. Our goal is to sell them out. We have 30 of them. I want to sell them out to benefit the library because they brought us here and they made this happen. So we're going to open up questions. Right over there, there's Jennifer Bankser, amazing human. That's where you go to the spotlight.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All we need is a disco ball. So go over and see Jennifer. If you have a question, you want to know something, only ask us Alice Cooper or rock and roll related questions. I can't help you with your physics homework, your trigonometry. Ask Cindy Dunaway to spell trigonometry, and we can talk about it. But so go see Jennifer. If not, we'll go over there and sign books and sign albums. We got to sell out the albums. We got about 10 albums, and we got about 30 books, and it all benefits the library. So go see us over there. Jennifer, open it up.
Dennis's book, buy it now.
Come on over. Questions?
Dennis, how about a new record?
Oh, get ready.
All right.
I need 1 day of rest.
And on the 8th day, God created the follow-up to Muscle Love.
Woo! Bodies need rest.
Questions?
When you ask the question, state your name and where you're from, because we want to know where you came from.
Brendan Toller, Verso Studios,
What city is that?
Westport, Connecticut.
He's a hometowner. He's a townie.
I'm a filmmaker. I've been in music my whole life. What's coming through this film is it's the complete marriage of fans and Dennis, your generosity, your and Cindy's generosity. They were here all weekend with the museum. Blue Creek performed here. That is seeping through this film. I want to hear from Chris and I want to hear from Steve what this was like, this whole process. It's in the film, but I want to hear more.
Well, I'll start out and I'll hand it to Steve. So, what's really weird about this film, there's so many, it's like an onion. There's multi-layers, you'll cry, you'll laugh, you'll have heartburn. But right before we started, there was a thing called Periscope. It doesn't even exist anymore. You guys know what Periscope is? So, right before we went to film, I told the guys, like, there's this thing called Periscope. We need to go live for the people that couldn't be here. So that evening and later on and the next day, it picked up and it was like wildfire. Renee and Chelsea's, which is Dennis and Cindy's daughter, messaged him, what did you guys do in Dallas? They thought it was just another whatever. But people were in London, Japan, Tokyo, picked it up. It went viral. And that's what made this happen. It's just, but it all stemmed from Dennis's book, Snakes, Guillotines, and Electric Chairs. And this guy has a memory like an elephant. I guess they have good memories. I don't know how you know that, but anyway. But it meant a lot to me. I didn't care if anybody was in the room. I just wanted those 3 guys, and then we got the 4th guy, Alice. Well, I just wanted Dennis. If he signed his book with nobody else, I wouldn't have cared. But when we did this film, a day before, I said, buddies, hey, you got a camera? Come on out. So we had 5 to 7 cameras. Steve can elaborate a bit further to the specifics. And Steve kind of became the director. And we had about a 3-minute meeting in the parking lot. You film Alice, you film Neil, you film Michael, you film Dennis, but everybody filmed Alice. But it was so close in proximity, it didn't matter. But you look at those smiles on their faces, that's genuine. They're having fun, cutting up, and the songs are so great. Nobody cares, chopping babies or whatever. It's great music, and that's what just wrote it home. So Steve, you have anything to elaborate? What was the question again? What did it mean to us?
What was the process like?
Well, we've been here 8 years later. 8 years in October, it'll be an anniversary. Continue, Steve.
We could make a movie on like everything that's happened around the movie, from the making of it to like touring around with it. I've made some lifelong friends now with the Dunaways, especially. I mean, they have gone above and beyond in championing this film, and I consider them family now. So, thank you. But the process, yeah, it was a call from Chris. I knew he had this thing. His favorite band in the world was Alice Cooper, the band, and he had Dennis coming in for a book signing. It was blowing up. I was like, well, he might get some of the other guys here. And then I get a phone call. I'm trying to get Alice. Don't tell anybody. And then the day before, Alice is going to be here. Make sure you get the damn cameras here. So we did that, and like I mentioned before, we knew we were in for something really, really special, but it just freaking melted our faces what happened. And I was looking at it. If you time it out, it's pretty much exactly 40 minutes for the set. Kind of short,
But longest since 1974
Longest
in
since
Brazil,
1974, and
which was
more
the
than
biggest
we
show.
Yeah. So I'm thinking 40 minutes is not a movie, but the story about how this happened, because I knew this, he did literally illegally cut a hole in the back of his store to some property he didn't have rights to behind him. It wasn't the exact spot you see in the movie, but it was the right idea. And it's just the things this guy goes through to pull off stuff like that is just amazing. I was like, I know this story. It's as good as the show. No disrespect, but it is. And so I said, between telling your story, showing the whole live performance, we got a movie. And he just said, Dennis, take it.
Yeah, I just thought of something. So we're doing film festivals, and there's several directors. And somebody asked one of the directors, how long did it take you to film this? And they said something like 4 years. And they asked Steve, how long did it take you to film your movie? And he said, about 35 minutes.
50 minutes pre-production, and then 40 minutes set.
The drone shot you see coming down, that was the guy that works for Southwest Airlines. He was just there. He brought a drone. It was not planned. It was the news piece you see in there. Like they picked it up, and there was the show, and then the day off where we did this thing, and then they opened up for Alice Cooper, and they opened up for Motley Crue. Sorry, and they're there, and they finish it out, and the original band comes out and does "School's Out." And I was down front and the security guards were trying to kick me out. That's how much I love these guys. And I'm like, I snuck down with my Alice Cooper All Access pass. Get out of here.
His pants, he's hard to miss.
These guys are just doing this one song. But it's a labor of love, and I hope you guys get that. And it's genuine, there's no pretense. And that's, I think, the universe is working for us. And we just got stuff it's going. It's really very special. We got a next question?
Hello, my name is Dimitri Santamaria, and I'm from Norwalk, Connecticut. This is actually a two-part question. First one's easy. Dennis, what's your favorite bass guitar?
Well, the bass I was playing in the movie, the one that was on display the last couple of days, my $1 billion bass, 1970 Fender bass. I actually was in the studio and I had a problem with the bass that I had brought in. So I rented that bass for the Killer album. And what year was that, boys?
Well, it came out in 71, so you probably recorded 70 maybe.
Probably 1970. And I rented that bass, and by the time I got done renting it, the rental was way more than the actual cost of the bass, so it was mine. And I've had it ever since, and that's my baby. But I have several basses, and I love them all, but that one's my baby.
The second part is, what techniques do you use to keep listeners continuously engaged?
Prayer. It's a collaboration. I mean, it's like the film. You look at it and you think, well, this works, and wait a minute, this doesn't quite work, so let's fix that. And there's a lot of rat in the maze kind of a thing where you keep art is creating until it's done, and then you stop. Knowing when to stop is also a big part of it. But the Alice Cooper group didn't have that much of a problem with when to stop, because doing 2 albums a year, you didn't have much time for any excessive behavior.
Hey Dennis, it's Mike Graff, Norwalk. How much of a role did Bob Ezrin play in the making of albums like Welcome to My Nightmare, School's Out? Because those albums, when you put that needle down, they're still relevant today, and it's like cuts through, and they're just so perfect.
Well, you know who mixed that? Bob Ezrin mixed that. He's a big chunk of this. And what's really weird, he was the gatekeeper. Shep Gordon said, "Is this any good?" And Bob Ezrin said, "It's fucking good." And he's like, those guys were on point that night. So Bob Ezrin, he wasn't on the first 2, he wasn't on the last one, but he's come back in the mix, and he got this to happen. So he's pretty monumental in a lot of Alice Cooper. He's the George Martin, but Dennis, continue. We didn't give him props, and Justin Cordy who mixed that. Without Bob Ezrin, this wouldn't exist. Friggin' The Wall, Destroyer, Peter Gabriel. Yeah, but anyway, Dennis, continue.
Well, the Alice Cooper group were all very collaborative, and we were all a bazillion ideas, and we had a rule that since there were 5 band members, we had a rule that you couldn't throw out an idea until you gave it a heartfelt try. And then we would vote, and then the majority won. And that was the end of it. No grudges or anything. We'd move forward. And that worked for us for a lot of years. It was time consuming, but I think because of that, we came up with the best ideas. Now, here comes Bob Ezrin into this sacred rehearsal room, and the first thing that had to happen is he had to be baptized by the fire of Glenn Buxton's sarcasm. Because people that didn't know us thought, oh God, these guys hate each other. But back in high school, we used to put down humor, you know, and we would fire all kinds of wisecracks. And if I left the room, I knew they were whittling me to pieces until I got back, and then it would be my turn on somebody else. All of that humor, which a lot of books don't depict that, because sarcasm doesn't. It's hard to write about sarcasm unless you specify that that's what was going on. Bob Ezrin comes in the studio the very first day. Glenn Buxton fires off a couple. Bob Ezrin held his own. Nobody could beat Glenn Buxton at a sarcastic wit contest, but he stood his ground. Okay, he's in. Now, what he brought to the table was the ability to make a song ready for AM radio, because we had a lot of sprawling. I'm 18 is the very first song we talked about. This is a perfect example, actually. I'm 18 had this sprawling, slow, moody, bluesy intro that kept slowly building, and then all of a sudden it would kick in. And then once it kicked in, it had a long outro where we were really milking it. Well, you know, we come in the studio, very first song we worked on together, Bob says, cut out the intro. And we're all like, Bob, but we like the intro. He said, cut out the intro. We're gonna start with the chorus instrumentally and then go right to the verse. And not only that, but now we're also going to take it down to just the bass and drums. Oh, wait a minute, Dennis, you're playing a note that conflicts with the bass drum there. Neil, you're playing something that conflicts. Okay, we learned how to take a song, dissect it, take it completely apart, and make sure that everything worked together. And we were sponges. Everything, like anything musical that would help what we wanted to do, we soaked it up really fast. So Bob brought this enthusiasm and this clarity. We had a tape recorder, but we couldn't afford tape. So we'd come back the next day and go, what did we do yesterday? And by the time we started trying to remember, it would change to something else. And Bob would say, no, that's not what you were doing. It was, you know, Neil, you were playing this beat, not that beat. And so he was kind of like our tape recorder, because he had this amazing, still does, amazing memory for that. And he also had the ability to make snap decisions to keep things moving forward. So instead of spending an entire day on the outro of the ending of a song, he would help us focus. But the great thing is he would let me and Neil do all kinds of experimentation to come up with the parts that we felt were the best. And once they would lock in, then they would lock in, and that's how they stayed to this day. Even the parts Neil plays in the movie and the parts I played are pretty much the same as when they locked in back then. So Bob had that extra clarity to what we were doing.
I would add that one of my favorite bands is Pink Floyd, and The Wall had a big influence on me. So to have Bob Ezrin's name in the opening credits as sound mixer, when his previous feature that he put out as sound mixer was Pink Floyd, The Wall, put me over the moon.
Jennifer, how many more questions do we have?
One.
That's it? So,
Time for one, and then we've got books on.
all right, there's one, but does anybody want to be the second? Anybody got something pressing? Or otherwise, turn off your cell phone. I'm just kidding. So this is the last question, unless you want to bribe. All right,
Make it good.
this is the last question, Robert Gagnon. But all right, and that's it. We're gonna sign over there. It all benefits the library. Come see us. We're gonna sell out the books, sell out the records. 2 questions left.
Hey Dennis, Jim Youth, I'm from Tom, Connecticut, fellow bass player as well. Dennis, so first off, kudos for remembering all the stories from the 70s. I don't know how you did it, living through the 70s, but great book. One question, and again, as a fellow bass player and musician, what made you think of writing Under My Wheels under a couch?
Awesome.
Oh my God, Neil always talks about that because we were in a hotel like we pretty much lived in, either a station wagon or hotel in those days. And I think it was Rochester or Buffalo, somewhere up there. And we were in the hotel, and of course, we always had a bunch of people in the room and a lot of distractions. So I'm trying to show Michael the chords. And so we tipped this big couch forward, so then it was kind of a fort that we could climb inside and then play in there and kind of block out all the commotion. But then everybody went out. They went to dinner or went to a party or something. I can't remember what. But then Neil's saying, we go out and we're gone for hours and we come back and they're still under the couch. So it was just trying to escape distractions mostly.
Necessity.
Just like a little kid under your blanket at night, you know, with your little flashlight and your comic book.
Last one. Come see us over there in a minute.
Hey guys, I'm Mark from Stamford, Connecticut. My question is for Dennis. So, could you tell us the process of deciding which songs got played that night, and what was the back and forth, and how those songs?
Dennis, let me take this real quick. So he might give you I'm gonna give you behind the scenes answer. He was a little perturbed, so he made the set list extra long. He goes, I'm kind of mad about something. So Alice showed up. The songs are just there. No rehearsal before the night before, and he could probably give you some. Maybe he won't give you the real insight, but he said, I'm gonna make it extra long. I was like, fuck yeah, you are. Let's do it. And they played 7 songs, and they went back in there and did an encore, and they said, what are we gonna do an encore? And I go, Desperado, because they tested the instruments the night before and the gear, and they ran through that, and Michael sang it, and I think it was what's the song called? Night, yeah. So, but we pulled Michael's vocals out, and the Desperado they rehearsed the night before is the intro music that the local animator animated. And I went back there, super fan. Y'all play Desperado, and Neil Smith goes, nope. But they decided, I think, was it Neil that said elected? Who decided on elected?
No, that was Ryan Roxy, but twisting all of our arms to do elected. We're like, well, none of us have played that in forever, you know?
But why did I'll get back to his question. Why did you make it so long? And then before elected kicked in, or when it was in the middle of the song, then Neil was like, I didn't know what fucking song we're playing.
Well, yeah. So you're talking about the set for the film?
Yes,
or
yes.
Okay.
The songs that we sang.
Yeah, so Ryan said, okay, you gotta do elected, we gotta do it, you know, and we're like, oh my gosh, really? Let me see, how did that go again? And so we go, okay, and we're talking about it, you know, let me see here, okay, I think I got it, but let's go anyway. And we went back because we didn't realize we were making a film, which was probably a good thing because we might have been trying to, you know, show off more.
Michael still doesn't know.
So So this is what happened. After we played Elected and got backstage again, Neil said exactly what I was thinking at the same time on stage. Michael hit the first chord, and then Neil said to himself, what the heck comes next? But then Michael played the riff, and then, oh, okay, oh yeah, okay. You can hear Neil's bass drum kicks in. There's just a fraction of a hesitation there, and then he comes in.
Why did you pick those songs?
The songs, well, okay, no rehearsal. We hadn't played together in so many years. So we chose pretty much the songs that that most of us in our various bands that we're in were most familiar with, rather than deep cuts where I might play one in my band and Neil might play a different one in his band. And the other thing that I might say about this that's, you gotta pat Alice on the back because he's talking about being in 4 different bands, and he's also mentioned that there are different arrangements of our songs and different interpretations of our songs. And for him to all of a sudden forget that he's done night after night, you get to a part of School's Out even, where they would go into another brick in the wall. He still managed to maintain being true to this without all of a sudden slipping into what he's used to doing night after night automatically.
And about Alice's vocals, first of all, he didn't know what he was playing until he stepped out on stage and looked down at the set list. Second, there's a little trick that a lot of bands do as the singer's getting older. Sometimes it's harder to hit the same range. So they'll drop a key a little bit. Most people won't notice it. A few people that are very, play by ear, they'll catch on to it. And this has happened over the years with Alice's current touring band.
Everybody does that.
Yeah, this is not a secret. This is, and it's how they continue to perform on top level. Well, if you're not singing, it takes no more effort as you get older to play the same notes on your guitar. So the original band still playing in the same key. Ryan Roxy, of course, is very adept at like, oh, we're doing it in this key. Okay. Alice comes out, he's got to sing in a key that he hasn't been used to singing to in quite some time.
This is 74.
And at the premiere in Phoenix, Toby Davis sat next to me, and then at some point he leaned over to me and was like, I have not heard Alice this good in decades. And the reason was the band was playing in the original key. They hadn't even thought to drop it for Alice, and he met it. He got there, and that passion and that gusto was in his voice like it hasn't been in so long. And I feel like that's a lot of the magic that's in this movie.
It's a brotherhood, this band.
So instead of playing 18 in the key of E minor, it was in E flat minor. So they would tune their guitars lower so that the highest note isn't quite as high. But that's doing 2-hour sets every night, and that's why you do that. And here we are. Well, we're only doing 4 or 5 songs or whatever, so let's tune up the pitch. But we surprised Alice, but because of that, it's more rock and roll gutsy.
Y'all come see us over there.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for inviting me to the course. Thank you.
Bill, come see us over there. We're going to sell out the books from the library. Thanks, you guys. School night.